here we go. All right, let's begin, shall we? So again, thanks everyone for joining. Excited to go through a nice little SDR workshop here today. I'm Tim Miller, kind of leading this along with Adam, our VP of Customer Success, and Charlie, an account executive here on the team. We've got a couple other RightBound team members as well, and then plenty of other friends. So thank you everyone again for joining today. Today we're going to talk about how you can leverage RightBound to boost your outbound motion, but it's not going to be all that much about RightBound as it is. It's going to be more about the cold calling scripts, talking about emailing, handling follow-ups, handling objections, and things like that. So we're going to keep it pretty low key, pretty informal. When you have questions, when you have thoughts, anything you want to add, feel free to shoot it in the chat and we'll try to shout you out when we get the chance. I sent over my LinkedIn profile as well, so feel free to connect with me there. Would love to chat with you all, and the same for Charlie and Adam. So as far as the agenda goes, kind of talked about a little bit about this already. We'll go through emailing. We'll talk about a lot about cold calling, how to follow up with leads, how to deal with objections. It's going to be pretty general just because we all deal with different types of objections. Then we're going to do just a short, I guess, discussion on SDR to AE relationships and tips and things like that of how you can have a healthy relationship with your AE, because obviously a lot of times that SDR to AE relationship can get a little spicy at times. And then we'll do a live role play at the end. I'm going to cold call Charlie and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I can book a meeting with him. So I'll throw it out over to Adam to start here.
Awesome. I'll actually take over the screen just so I have the ability to kind of maneuver this. So before I actually start talking about this part in terms of email cadences and best practices, obviously I want to welcome you all. We're pretty excited to do this. This is one of the first kind of, RightBound customer-based SDR workshops. We are going to start doing this periodically for you guys as an added resource, mainly kind of leveraging, a lot of the internal knowledge that we have both on the customer success side and our sales development side. By the way, Tim and his team is actually using RightBound for their sales development initiative. So we are kind of drinking our own champagne in terms of that. So in terms of questions, if it's RightBound best practices, great. Obviously, we'll be happy to dive in. Like Tim said, we're not going to do, product demos today. This is not necessarily to shine a light over at RightBound. This is more on you guys, right? Our customers, our users, the SDRs, the SDR leaders that are on the call, and to, share also your experiences in terms of the things that you're seeing successful. I definitely encourage you to chime in and be engaged in the conversation to make it more of a dialogue. And obviously your feedback, you might have some other thoughts. Maybe you disagree on some stuff. Maybe you want to add on some things. So I definitely recommend to do that. You can use either the chat or you can unmute yourself and feel free to speak. That's totally fine as well. So let me just go into the actual slide. So the first thing we want to talk about today is email cadences. Okay, obviously a major piece out of the sales development world, something that the vast majority of you on the call are doing today with RightBound through your RightBound campaigns, with your actual outbound emails, and obviously outside of RightBound, whether it's on SalesLoft or Outreach.io, whatever tool you're really using for that. So essentially the best practices and the main points that you're seeing here today is kind of a combination of, our customer base and the data across all of our customer base that essentially are reporting, and analytics generated some insights. Okay, things like maybe lengths of the email or how many emails would you want to have an email cadence. It's also essentially shared knowledge, right? My background is coming from SDR, the vast majority of our success team, and obviously on the sales side. So that comes into play as well as some nuggets that we have kind of gathered from other resources, places like, companies like HubSpot or Gong or Outreach.io, they kind of release periodic articles about those type of stuff. So that's just a little bit of background, I guess, on the research. As it relates to email cadences, okay, there's always a conversation around the net and the sphered approach, right? That mix, whether you're spreading a wide net and you're doing kind of more of the generic type emails versus the emails that are completely sphered, lead level stuff. You go to LinkedIn and you find what university or what baseball team they like, and you put that into the email, which is obviously the more sphered one. We find that it's a happy medium, right? It's somewhere in the middle. It's a mix of finding those targeted accounts that are more enterprise and kind of deserve every single email to be really personalized to the lead level, with a healthy mix of those accounts that might be more, maybe mid-size, or maybe tier number 2 for you guys. And it doesn't mean to do completely generic emails. It means personalization at scale. Okay, so what is personalization at scale? It could be things that relate to segmentation on the persona level, right? Maybe you're going after salespeople, but you're also going after marketing people, and they obviously care about different things. And the value propositions of your product or your offering is different for those type of personas. You essentially want to create that healthy mix of, again, stuff that you can do at scale, but stuff that are personalized enough. It could be things that relate to the industry they live in, or it could be things that relate to the actual offering that you have. Maybe you have multiple products that fit, multiple types of people that you sell into. So that personalization at scale really has to make the impact on the other end. Okay, it's all about the prospect. It's all about making it about them. If we talk about, we email a VP of sales and all we talk about is how our API integrations are so great with Outreach and Salesforce and HubSpot, we got to lose that person in a second. But if we talk to that VP of sale that was, recently promoted, or maybe he just recently started this company, or maybe they had a recent funding event, and we can use those as personalization at scale and have a campaign for companies with recent funding, or have a campaign for recently hired VP of sales, and use that nugget and use that ability to know, okay, we can bucket this group and we can use this fact to say, with recent funding, there's more budget. Maybe they're thinking about more innovative ways to do their sales development, right? I'm using kind of the RightBound example. Or maybe if it's a recently hired SDR manager, he now has to ramp, a lot of new SDRs, and some automation in terms of getting more leads into their sequences could help. So again, it's really that healthy mix. Any other examples maybe from the crowd in terms of like personalization at scale, stuff that you've used as potential like triggering events or things like that you've had kind of a dedicated campaign to a set number of leads and companies where you could kind of, upload that and have the first paragraph kind of personalized for that triggering event?
Hi, this is Miles McNamee of ReadCube.
Go ahead.
What we do is we personalize the messages, not only specific to the persona, but anything we know about that company. One of the things at RightBound's recommendation is to lead with a survey in our cadence, and we use that information to kind of parrot back, hey, you said this, therefore we can help you. Does that help you out?
And kind of use that, essentially the responses from the survey, you mean to?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a great note on that. Tim will also cover around like best practices on specifically survey leads. But yeah, Miles, to your point, that's I think a great example, which is kind of leveraging the fact that we sent one email that might be a little more at scale, right? We sent a survey to a lot of people, but then we can kind of use those responses to do further personalization and to focus on those leads that actually completed. Any other examples, ideas from the crowd on this one? Cool. Sorry, I think I cut someone off.
I was going to say, I find it very helpful to kind of make a video for a company and just kind of reach out to people in the same department with that same video. So kind of personalize the video to the company instead of just one prospect.
So and doing that for multiple stakeholders within that company?
Yeah, so for an example, I reach out to marketers. So I would send the same video to digital marketing manager, design marketing manager, head of marketing, just different like roles in the company to just test the waters, I guess.
Yeah. Did you ever try kind of name dropping, right? Like, let's say you have multiple stakeholders within a marketing department and maybe you're unsure, like they all have kind of similar titles. Maybe they're all just, they got 3 director of marketing and there's no like sub category. If you kind of tried name dropping, like, hey, are you the right person? Or is it John? Or is it, have you tried this?
Yeah, usually when I get a little bit of interest from one person, I would drop their name in the next email that I sent to someone else in their department.
Yeah, I know.
For sure, and that works.
I know I sometimes get those type of emails for like customer success type platforms that people try to sell to me. And they're like, is this you or Dan on your team? Is this you? And they just kind of look it up and it seems personal. It seems like, oh, yeah, they know one of my colleagues, it kind of makes you think a little bit. It's a good hook for that starter.
For sure. I mean, that is actually a helpful tip. Thank you.
Cool. Let's talk about the lengths, right? So according to our data, we find that email campaigns for outbound, right? We're talking about like a world that was previously completely cold, okay? We're talking about the outbound world here, kind of net new accounts or maybe accounts with no real previous engagement. We are seeing that 4 to 6 emails is the ideal or optimized lengths of the cadence. Okay, when you're getting to those kind of lengthy, 8, 9, 12-step cadence, 2 things can happen. One, it takes you much longer to kind of carry out this audience and kind of move to the next, right? And we often see that after step number 6, there is essentially quite a steep decrease in terms of engagements and response rates. But we're still kind of using all of this deliverability power of sending a lot of emails to people that are already getting email number 7 or 8. There's also the issue around prospect fatigue. If they're seeing, the same email, or maybe if it's different emails also, but like they haven't responded to the first 6 and they're starting to get the 7s and the 8s and the 9s, even if it's across a month or 2, you're creating some prospect fatigue. They might be marking you as spam at that point, which can hurt domain reputation and deliverability. Again, for those initial campaigns, we typically suggest 4 to 6 emails. Obviously with that, there's LinkedIn touches and there's calls, so it's not the only touches that you put in for that specific channel for the email. That's definitely a number that we have seen as ideal according to our data and results. Also subject line. So I think there's kind of a theme here. You're seeing a lot of stuff that's say short or brief. That's outbound, right? But very short attention spam. We need a very quick hook for those type of people, especially if they're pretty senior. We don't have a lot of time, and lengthy emails typically get put to the side. So subject lines, we have seen that up to 3 words in that subject line provides the best open rates. Okay, it doesn't necessarily then mean that everyone is going to respond to the email or reply to the email, but to get to the good open rates, that's definitely something that the data consistently backs up. Also, in terms of the email itself, the length of the email itself, so 50 to 125 words. Okay, that's anywhere between 2 to 4 paragraphs. I would even say keep it at the 2 to 3. That's an ideal length of an outbound email. This is the 50 to 125 is actually from a Gong research. The rest of it comes from RightBound data. There's also, sometimes there are all of those emails that have maybe 5 to 8 different bullet points and 5 to 6 different paragraphs, and each one is talking about a different value proposition of the product and trying to really cover all of the platform capabilities in one email. Those things are not going to land. I mean, the likelihood that someone is going to get to that 6th or 7th paragraph or those lengthy bullet points that come in, just looking at it, sometimes for me, at least personally, I can get a little bit tired and like I'm going to move to the next, right? Keep it short, focus on the 1 to 2 max main value propositions that actually relate to that person, okay? It's not going to be the same for each. That's why, again, it's going back to the personalization at scale. Maybe a salesperson would care about this value prop, marketeer would care about another. But keep it concise, try to really hone in on 1 or 2 versus trying to spread it out on all of the different things that your product or offering can do. Any feedback points from the crowd, or maybe things that you have seen differently for you in terms of lengths, in terms of subject lines, in terms of, this 50 to 125 words, those type of things?
So Miles asked a question in the chat about including some sort of media, like a picture or a quick video as a way to generate some interest. What are your thoughts there, Adam?
Definitely. I would say the better performing ones are those short videos, or maybe taking like a long product video and making it to the 15% that kind of matters most or is the most visually attractive. So it's the same thing, short attention span. We've seen best results taking a snapshot or essentially a GIF out of a video, okay, that kind of plays for 2 to 3 seconds and is generated in the body of the email. There's a play button in the middle, and when you click it, you go to a short video, which is probably half a minute to a minute max, and talks about something that is main and kind of major and visually attractive over your platform. But bottom line answer is definitely this is a touch point or type of asset that is performing quite well. Okay, so I'll talk about kind of the general email types, and it relates to Miles' questions as well. So things we've seen a very good success across RightBound's customer base. I think the vast majority of you know our survey offering, which is essentially an integration with SurveyMonkey. I'll show an example of how that kind of looks like visually as well. But it's asking qualifying information in the survey to get this information up front from the prospect. If they complete it, they get a $25 gift card, and there's kind of full automation around this. Our customer base average conversion from survey to meeting is 20%. So for outbound leads, 1 out of 5 is great. That's great odds. You're all in this business, you know how it's a game of numbers, and it's very rare to pick up the phone, call someone once, and book the meeting. It requires effort, requires time. So again, the survey is generating much higher conversion to meeting rates than some other touch points. Something that we and our customers have seen successful is lunch and learns. Okay, so that's kind of a software in, right? We're often going after pretty senior people that are getting targeted by many, many different solutions that are trying to sell to them. And it's hard to be unique in this crowd. A good way to generate engagement and some initial brand awareness is through lunch and learns. And those are not like come to a lunch and learn and see a demo of my product. This is more of come and meet with other VPs in your role to discuss best practices in X, right? That's typically more of a company initiative. We do this internally together with a marketing team and our sales team, and there's someone more senior from the team that is kind of leading that dialogue and that discussion, we typically pick 1 or 2 main topics that would relate to maybe the vast majority of VP of sales or VP of marketing, and discuss those and have a dialogue to a certain extent, a little bit like what we're doing today, even though it's more of a workshop, but kind of something that is interactive and bringing people in similar roles to discuss best practices. And out of those, you know, you're going to build your brand awareness. You can have a follow-up campaign to reach out to everyone that signed up, and essentially from there try to increase your pipeline, right? But the initial in is we're hosting this lunch and learn. Short videos and GIFs we talked about. That's definitely something that has been successful. Any of the, you know, the people here in the crowd today that have like a free trial or a product sample, that's, you know, definitely something we have seen very, very good success with the RightBound campaigns in general, in outbound campaigns. It just provides like an opportunity for that person to actually see something visually, to get something, you know, get an actual like hands-on experience with your product. I know not all products have it, obviously, so there's that limitation. But you know, even if it's something that they kind of can plug and play some initial information and maybe just get a snippet of your product or get an in for a week, or, you know, those type of offerings, if you have it, definitely leverage it for your RightBound campaigns, and definitely leverage it for stuff you do outside of RightBound. We'll talk about some short value proposition or like ROI type emails. There's no like unique assets there. There's nothing like crazy creative, but they're just short, to the point, talk about what matters to that persona. I'll walk through some examples for the vast majority of those types. Let's talk about CTAs, okay? Call to actions. Vast majority of those people that we reach out to get a lot of emails that are just asking for a meeting, demo, right? Research shows that interest-based call to actions, which are essentially asking for interest, okay? Are you interested in learning more about X? Does this make sense to explore more? Is this something that is top of mind for you? You know, those type of call to actions generate a much better response rate than let me know your thoughts, which is just way too open, or, you know, can I book a meeting? Sometimes we can have it, sometimes you can have a demo link in one of your emails or a couple of your emails, but we definitely don't recommend all of your cadence to just be every single call to action is let's book a demo or a meeting. You know, again, you're not differentiating yourself from the other emails they're getting if you just take that approach. A/B testing, obviously important. There are a lot of neat little, you know, different things to this. It could be A/B testing for subject lines and just looking at the open rates. It could be A/B testing for what order is it in the cadence, right? I sent it as step number 1, or I sent it as step number 5, and what is generating better results or more kind of chronologically makes sense. It could be call to actions of different, just one paragraph, right? The whole email is the same, but you flip the paragraph that talks about maybe 1 or 2 different value propositions, and you A/B test or ABC test this paragraph alone. Everything else remains as the same, right? Kind of status quo on the rest. Just one paragraph changes. You can do A/B testing on the call to action. That's all of what I'm saying, by the way, is also technically possible with the RightBound campaign. So if any of you are not aware, those things are possible. So if you want to implement any of that, talk to your CSM. But A/B testing on just parts of the email, or just the call to action, just paragraph, just subject line, all of this is possible. And obviously the full email, right? It kind of connects to the next point. We need some time to analyze the result. There needs to be a significant enough sample size to say if an A/B test worked, right? Statistically speaking. So as we're learning and optimizing our emails, we recommend running an email cadence for a minimum of 4 weeks before we can even say, is this successful or is this a failure? And that kind of relates to the A/B test. And it could be full emails. Okay, if you're sending an email for 4 to 6 weeks and it's asking someone to complete a survey and you got 0 survey completions, or it's asking someone to click on a link and you have 0 CTR, click-through rate, then it's probably good enough to say, okay, this is not really working. But if it's running for a week or two, too early to say. We need a significant amount of sends to test it out. You also want to keep consistency. You don't want to change up your messaging every couple of weeks. It's going to be very, very hard to generate any type of insights or results. It's going to be a little bit all over the place. So 4 to 6 weeks, keep your cadences going, learn the results, look at the reports, open rates, CTRs. There's something in the RightBound app that is able to identify positive email replies. You know how sometimes an email has 3% reply rate, but it's all not interested, unsubscribe. That's not really generating a lot of value, right? But positive email reply means like someone actually asked something as a follow-up or said, sure, I want to book a meeting. That's much more significant. Before I go into some specific email examples, any questions about any of those points, or even just stuff you guys want to add?
Just to go back to the cadence part, we use a 6-touch strategy, and then complement it with phone calls when there's interest, or LinkedIn messages. Is there, from RightBound's experience, kind of a magic number that we should be targeting? Is 6 too few? Is 6 too many? In
terms of the email touches?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's within the range. So our data says within 4 to 6 emails is a best practice in terms of generating and kind of optimizing the amount of responses and engagements that we want from that channel, and then doing exactly what you're saying, right? Complemented with phone calls, complemented with a LinkedIn request for a connection, or maybe a LinkedIn note.
Okay, and thanks.
Cool. Let's go into some examples. Essentially, this is to a certain extent the product sample. Okay, so in this example, this is one of our customers actually that is selling an email signature solution. Okay, and here they are providing literally a sample of their product. Okay, so they have leveraged the RightBound machine to generate on the spot for each prospect a unique email signature. So what you're seeing here for Caroline, VP Growth Strategy, this is generated on the spot, personalization at scale, if you will, with dynamic fields. Okay, first name, last name, title, company name, phone number, email, LinkedIn link, and it's generating this email signature for this specific prospect. And it's showing her kind of a snippet. If you use our company, if you use our solution, this is how your signature is going to look like. I know this is a specific example, but there could be some insights that are drawn out of this. Okay, if you're selling an IT solution that helps you resolve tickets autonomously, you might want to show kind of a quick snippet of your product, kind of autonomously resolving a ticket on whatever Zendesk or Jira, and kind of show that process in a short video or a GIF. And to a certain extent, you're providing a sample of your product. It could be a sandbox environment, or again, we talked about the free trial. But I think this is an email that is generating a very, very high amount of positive email replies to do this. I'm getting a note that I need to hurry up, so I'm going to move to the next. We talked about a quick value proposition emails. Okay, so this email is actually one of our own emails. Listen, this is simple. There's nothing too unique here, but it's talking about a research that says that SDRs are spending 77% of their time on essential manual prospecting, and then it says, picture this. What if we flip this so they instead of 77% on manual prospecting, they spend this on actually engaging with their prospects, communicating with those people, and they're saying, this is what RightBound could provide you. Sounds interesting, right? Interest-based CTA, it's not asking for a meeting. Good email that is generating positive email replies. Survey, I think many of you are familiar with this offering, but this is essentially showing that we are generating some information from similar people in their role. This is how it kind of looks like in SurveyMonkey. And again, it's asking qualifying information. For us, we want to know how much of their sales dev is outbound focused, or how many hours they spend on prospecting, et cetera, et cetera. So again, qualifying information that you want to get through a survey. You have this ammo, and you can book the meeting at a higher rate. A couple last examples. So this is actually one of our customers. Okay, so this is more, I know it doesn't look so creative, but this isn't a creative touch, it is a creative touch point. We have one of our customers in the HR space. They have literally, what this email have generated the vast majority of their outbound meetings over the last few months. It started by a mistake, okay? So what you're seeing here in the link with the Alice, if you click this on the prospect end, it's essentially a link that is broken, okay? It gets you to a landing page where you can fill up your information. If you fill it up, you get a $50 gift card. At least that's what it tells you. If you click submit, it says an error. There's an error, okay? It started by mistake. At some point, this company started getting a lot of messages from prospects. Hey, this link is not working. Their SDRs then use this as a hook to say, I'm so sorry, here's your gift card. At the same time, we do X, Y, Z. Why don't we kind of hop on a quick call and discuss? They have generated, literally, this was the best performing email by far for all of their outbound practices, and they're a pretty large team, over 10 BDRs. And they kept this offering for good, okay? Now, I know maybe it sounds weird. Hey, it's a broken landing page, but they're, the prospects that kind of reply back do end up receiving it. And the bottom line is that it generated a lot of meetings for this company. This is for me to encourage you to think creatively, okay, about touch points that are a little bit different. Maybe if it looks weird, maybe if it's like a cutoff email in the middle, it looks like you forgot to continue or you made an error. People will respond to you, say, hey, you should fix this part. And it often is a great hook to actually book the meeting. Sorry, that's it. The rest is Tim's. So I'll move it over to you, Tim.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Adam. VP of customer success, he's talking with customers all day, every day. So a lot of data that he's been able to see and share with you all. So yeah, appreciate you sharing that. So let's get into talking about cold calling now, right? So as far as call scripts goes, there's a couple of different parts of a cold call that we can kind of point to, that as long as a cold call goes through these specific parts of the cold call, it should end up in at least attempting to close and get the meeting booked. And that starts with the intro, obviously. A lot of people have great cold call openers. Some are better than others. The best ones are going to allow you to continue the conversation. And the best ones do two things. Number one, they set expectations for the call. You're going to set some kind of a time expectation that, hey, whether it be 30 seconds or a couple of minutes, you give them the expectation that I do not want to talk with you for 15 minutes right now. I know you're busy. I know you're interrupting. So I have no interest in talking to you for a long period of time, because I know you have no interest in talking to me for that time. The other part of that is you need to make sure that you are making that prospect feel comfortable. Number one, you're giving them a call and they see that number. I mean, who knows? If you use a local dialer, they're like, is this my principal, my kid's principal at school? Is my kid in trouble, or did they get hurt? I need to go pick them up. Or is this my doctor reminding me about a visit? Or is this my mechanic talking to me about, my car's in the shop? If it's a local dialer, or regardless, it's, any number out there, right? They're wondering, who is this? Why are they trying to get in touch? And the alarms are going off in their head. So we've got to make them comfortable and say, hey, look, you can say, this is a cold call. This is a cold call. And I know you probably want to hang up. Should we roll the dice here? Be transparent in that way. Just tell them your name, your full name. I recommend your full name, more transparency. Unless you are LeBron or Beyonce, no one really knows who you are. If I said, hey, it's Tim, everyone's going to be like, yeah, I've heard of 90,000 Tims today. So it doesn't really go anywhere. Now we go Tim Miller. My name is even more common at that point, but it is what it is, right? So just give them their full name. That's my opinion. I could be. Give them the company name as well. I used to not give my company name, and I was like, I'm not going to say my company because they're going to know it's a cold call. They know it's a cold call the second they pick up and it's someone they've never heard from before. So we're not, there's no secrets there. So definitely recommend setting expectations, making everyone comfortable, the prospects comfortable as much as possible. Then you go into the hook. Got to grab their attention, and you got to talk about something that's top of mind for them. You guys understand it, right? Like, you talk to your personas all day, every day. You solve a problem that they're at least willing to hop on demos for and book time with you to learn more. So you're understanding some things that are top of mind. So take those things in previous conversations and bump that up to the hook. I'll give some examples of what that can look like, but your solution solves a lot of problems. You just have to communicate it in the right way for that person. Then you move on to the pitch. And with the pitch, you're hopefully going to have some kind of discovery that you've already done from the hook. The hook should be ended with a question, trying to get them to talk, trying to do a little bit of discovery there. So highly, highly recommend doing that with your hook so that when you go into your pitch, you can personalize it. Like our solution, RightBound, I just onboarded 2 new reps in the past week, and there were maybe 8 or 9 solutions that RightBound solves. It's all the same product, but we solve 8, 9, 10 solutions. It's just, how do you communicate it and which part of the solution is going to be most important to them? You'll find that with the hook. And then also be different from your competition. I can tell you right now, and I can tell you when I get cold emails, everyone is talking to me about booking more meetings, increasing revenue, onboarding reps quicker, et cetera, et cetera. While these things are all relevant for me, when I see 10 emails a day about the exact same solution, not interested. You're no different than anyone else who's reached out to me. So in your pitch, try not to use buzzwords like optimize or automate or supercharge or XYZ, right? Like, that's just going to put you into a box with every other SDR who's called them this week. So try to be different with your solution, use words that they're not normally used to hearing, and also talk to them like they're your friend. And I'll get into that in a second as well. Last point here comes to discovery. So we've given our intro, we've introduced who we are, told them why we're calling. Then we go to the hook, try to get their attention. Okay, we've grabbed them, their attention. Now we're going to go into the pitch, personalize that pitch in terms of what we think or what we know they're dealing with. And now we go to discovery. We're going to cover more pain, learn more about their processes. So at that point, we can go in and close and personalize that pitch again, personalize that close, ask for the time so that we know exactly what they're dealing with and exactly how we can solve it, right? So you want to get them talking. You want to just be able to ask questions, get discovery from them. And this also helps with the AE, right? Like, if I book a meeting and I send that demo over to Charlie, Charlie would probably rather not go in blind and just look at their LinkedIn, look at their company, look at the persona, and that's it. He's going to want to know some specific things. So your team is the same way in terms of maybe tools they're using or who they're targeting or, whatever is specific for your type of solution. Try to uncover some of that pain so that you can equip your AE with more discovery and so that you can take what you've learned from them to close them. To, I guess, some more broad, just more broad feedback here in terms of call scripts. So when it comes to addressing objections and handling those, I highly recommend addressing one objection at the very start of the conversation. Hey, this is Tim Miller from RightBound. How are you? That's fine, but it's a lot different if you say, hey, this is Tim. I know we've never catching you at a bad time, or I know I'm catching you in the middle of something like that. Kind of disarms the alarms going off in their heads again, and gives you the chance to continue the conversation before they can put a halt to it. So I highly recommend always addressing an objection at the start of the conversation. Is this a cold call? Don't give them the chance to ask that. This is a cold call. You never heard from me before. Things like that are huge. continue to handle objections and address those objections as the call goes on. Bring up an objection before they can. Highly recommend that. When it comes to communication, you got to get the prospect talking. One big thing here, I mentioned this before, talk to them like you're your friend. I remember when I was doing cold calling every day, I remember I would be so wrapped up at times trying to figure out how am I going to respond to this prospect to get them to meet, that I wouldn't actually actively listen to what they're saying, right? So there's a difference between when you talk to your friend, you talk to a family member, call your mom on the phone, whatever. When you're talking to them, you're not like trying to actively anticipate what am I going to say next. So have that same exact perspective in a cold call. Hey, I'm just going to listen and then I'm going to respond. One thing I teach my reps to do, take their hand, go like this. When the prospect is done talking, go like that. Just tap twice and then respond. That gives you a chance to collect your thoughts a little bit. It slows down the cadence of the call. We're not like talking over one another or adding urgency to the call. And at the same time, it allows you to have an extra split second to think, how do I want to respond here? So highly recommend that. And then in terms of your pitch, try to be flexible with it. Don't be so broad that you're boxing or that you're not, allowing the prospect to understand what the call is about. And don't be so narrow that you box yourself into one solution. So RightBound, for example, I'll give this example, right? Like we have contact data within our platform, over 30 different data providers, yada, yada, yada. If I go in and I talk about our data to start, we just boxed ourselves into Zoom Info and all those data providers. Those guys are great. They're awesome. We're not them. At the same time, if I talk about the pre-sequencing or the engagement, things like that, the automated emails, now we're Outreach and we're SalesLoft. We don't want to box ourselves into something specific. So give your solution in a way that is specific enough to know the realm of where you want to point the conversation to, but not so specific that you could potentially get someone to respond, call me back in 9 months, we just signed up with someone. Call me back in a quarter, that's when we're looking to renew with that specific competitor. So highly recommend that there. I see a question here from Merrick. Hey, Tim, if you're calling a prospect that is engaged with emails, do you recommend referencing the emails? So you can. Here's what I say to that. You can do one of two things. You can reference them. You cannot reference them. If you reference it and they say, yes, I remember seeing this email, perfect. If you reference it and they say, no, I don't remember seeing this email, now you've got to, you're basically like, no worries, yada, yada, yada. Does it necessarily add value to the call? No. If you don't address it, you don't give them the chance to say, no, I don't really know what you're talking about. So I typically don't mention it. I don't tell my team to mention it just because we're risking the chance that they may say, no, I've never seen your emails. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about, and potentially set your call backwards. So I don't think it adds a lot of value if they say, yeah, I remember this email. I definitely have people, and there's reps who on our team, I'll go back and listen to calls and they'll say, oh yeah, I think I remember seeing something from you. So it definitely happens, but a lot of times it may not happen and you don't want to set yourself back. So hopefully that makes sense there. Feel free to ask a follow-up here if you get the chance.
One little difference that I always taught to, because this is something that every SDR at some point asks this question, should I reference the email? You can make a joke of it. Like, this is a way that you can show a little bit of your humanity through your call. Hey, Jeff, I sent you an email, but I figured a call would be a little bit quicker to answer this question. And like, just blow right past it, right? Maybe they've read it, maybe they haven't, but you're just like, you're opening yourself up, being a little bit more vulnerable there. And it's a very human pattern interrupt. You're going to hear a lot of conversations with people talking, especially in cold calling, about a pattern interrupt as an opener. For like the last 3 years, it was, hey, do you have 27 seconds? And now that is the pattern. So it's not going to pattern interrupt anymore. This is one where it's like, I sent you an email, I'm following up because this is faster. That's what your colleague would say to you. That's what your mom would say to you. That's your girl. Like, that's a very normal human thing to do, but it's not what you would expect on a cold call, right? So that's the one caveat. If that feels comfortable to address the emails, or you know that they've opened your emails before, that's an easy way to like both address it, but not make it a question.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that too, I've heard people before who say, look, I'm sure you get, 1,000 emails every day. I figured I'd man up and just dial you on the phone, something like that as well. to kind of be funny, again, show that you're human, things like that. So, and then in terms of closing, I noticed that some reps have the tendency to feel nervous about asking for time. All you're doing when you're closing is you're selling time. You're not selling your solution. You're not selling your AE. You're not selling anything other than let's continue this conversation at another date. The worst they can say is no, it's no big deal, but you don't have because you don't ask. If you go through a cold call and you actually have the conversation and you don't ask for the time, you're not going to get the meeting, right? Like there's not many VP of sales out there who are going to say, yeah, I'd love to meet about this. Can we do, 2:00 tomorrow? Most people, you're going to have to ask them for the time. So ask them for the time and assume the sale. Say, hey, look, I think that this conversation has been super productive. I appreciate what you've shared. Let's find some time to dive in a little bit deeper. And then you assume the sale, but at the same time, you decrease the urgency. Let's find some time later on this afternoon or tomorrow to kind of continue this conversation, not to make any decisions right now, not to obliterate your budget, but simply just to show you what we've got. You can keep it in your back pocket. And if we want to follow up from there, we can. No big deal. So assume the sale, but also give them a low friction ask kind of at the same time. And then say, hey, let's find time later on today or tomorrow. Which works best for you? So now you're telling them, hey, I'm not going to ask you if you want to meet. I'm asking you which time works best for you. So you're trying to point your prospect to the calendar rather than making them wonder if they actually want to meet. So those are a couple of tips there as well. I think I just accidentally went backwards. All right. So let's talk about survey leads. Yeah, great point, Miles. Shot not taken is a shot not scored. Exactly. And then Miles, you mentioned survey leads a few minutes ago. Want to touch on these here again. Survey leads, I don't know if you all get inbound leads as a part of your workflow, but I love survey leads over someone raising their hand saying they want to demo RightBound. They have just expressed pain. They've given us discovery. We understand we can pick who's in our ICP, and we're sending these emails out only to people in our ICP. These survey leads are gold. Adam mentioned a 20% conversion rate. I think for us, we're probably converting, upwards of 50%. These are really, really solid lead sources. I'm dropping everything when I see an email that someone has responded to a survey. I'm always calling with velocity, and I'm going to use their responses and the discovery that they gave as ammo as they go into the call. I know some things already that they're dealing with, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to just say, hey, look, sounds like you're dealing with this, this, and this. Take me through what you've done in the past to kind of remedy this. Cool, makes sense, awesome. Here's RightBound, here's the solution. That's what you all can do with your survey leads as well. And then you want to personalize the follow-up with the pain at the forefront. So when you're following up with an email, for example, hey, I appreciate your response. Saw you're struggling with this. Here's how RightBound solves that. You can get in pretty quickly with that. So I love survey leads. Really, really good lead source, I think, in my opinion. And then reply leads, exact same thing. Reach out to them with velocity. Call them very, very quickly. The thing with surveys and replies is you know that they have a pulse at the very second. When they hit submit, they have a pulse. They're alive. They may be in a Zoom meeting. They may be on a webinar. They may be busy with something, but enough mental capacity to reply or to fill out a survey, which means that if you give them a call, they probably should answer and they should have some time for you. So give them a call quickly and then go on and anticipate objections as well. Depending on what they said, maybe they said something that they're skeptical about or they're not sure about that type of solution, whatever the case may be. Go through and anticipate those objections at the start. And then number 3, doing additional research on the company and the prospect is huge when it comes to these replies. Charlie, you mentioned something about this as well. I don't know if you want to add anything here.
Nope. No, just kidding. These are great opportunities. Like we talk, personalization is something that gets discussed all the time, and it is a truly valuable part of any sales cycle, especially at the very beginning. This is their first interaction, really. You are the face of your company to this prospect at this point. you know that if somebody fills out a survey or if somebody replies to an email, these are the most relevant people that you're going to come across in an outbound motion. This is where it makes sense to do that next level personalization. Look at their website. If you're selling to e-com, go pretend checkout, see what they're using for their e-com platform. See if they've got a chat bot, if that's relevant to you guys. Look at their website and see what industries they're targeting or who their customers are. Look at this person's LinkedIn. What are they liking? What are they commenting on? How long have they been there? Have they been at another relevant company in the past? This is where that 3 to 4 minutes of research can really make a huge impact in creating a truly personal touch that actually moves the needle, because you're going to be looking for things that are more relevant. If you say, hey, so-and-so, I saw you also went to UC Santa Barbara, go, Slugs or whatever their mascot is, like that's not relevant. If you look and say, hey, it looks like you're using Shopify as your e-com platform. Hey, it looks like you guys are targeting biotech. We do really well there. Hey, whatever the case may be, it shows that you have taken this interest in this person that has already taken interest in you. It is going to come across as professional, it is going to come across as research, and it is going to just, even if you don't get the meeting right then and there, it's going to paint the company in a really nice light that is very thoughtful, is caring about its prospects. And with Outbound, the first touch typically isn't where you're getting the meeting anyways. They may be like, wow, this person's thoughtful, let me refer them to the correct person, or hey, this is not relevant right now, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information about when it might be relevant so that you can stay top of mind, because you have done a good job initially with showcasing that you are actually thoughtful and care about what matters to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got 4 minutes left here. We've got a lot of content left to cover. So fear not, we're not going to cover all the content today. I'm sure we'll send out the slides here later on. I'm going to go ahead and skip and hand this over to Charlie to talk about AE to SDR relationships and kind of get his perspective.
Absolutely. So this is one of the most common places where friction can arise within sales departments. I saw this all the time when I was leading SDR teams. That's what I've done for the vast majority of my career, is work with SDR teams as their manager, as their director. And what I always tried to do was get my team to be completely aligned to the AE team to eliminate that friction as much as possible. So one of the first things I had them do was talk to the AEs. Like, this sounds silly, but like, have a human conversation with them. They're not your boss, but like, you're working with them. The meetings you're scheduling are for them. Listen to them, get feedback. Tell them ahead of time if you're like, hey, so-and-so, I booked this meeting on Thursday. I wasn't able to do a lot of qualification. Great. Tell the AE that. That's going to prepare them for that call. They're not going to feel blindsided. Same thing on the flip side. Hey, so-and-so, I had a really great call. Here's the context. I put in the notes in Salesforce, but I wanted to give some additional context to it. Awesome. Like, both of those are incredibly valuable. And then get feedback. Hey, how'd that meeting go? I thought it was gonna be super strong. Was it? And then take their feedback. If they're berating you or something, if they're crossing lines, like, of course, that's not what I'm talking about, but like, seek to understand what matters to them and why it matters to them, especially when it comes to a sales cycle. And then with that allows you to put yourself in their shoes, right? Like, okay, if a lot of SDRs want to be AEs, so you can start thinking about, well, what would an ideal meeting look like for me once I'm in that seat? What do I want to get from the SDRs that I'm working with and that are working with me? And you can start to think through that, and that's going to allow you to be more productive in your conversations, more productive in your emails, more productive in how you're running discovery, potentially even in how you're looking at, who to engage with when. And then you can align your goals to them. Ideally, your comp plans line up with theirs. If they care about pipeline, then like, that's how you guys should be comped, but that's not always the case. However, that doesn't mean that you can't put that responsibility upon yourself. Of course, hit your numbers that you're getting paid for already, like, make yourself look good to the company, but if you go above and beyond and say, like, I'm hitting my meetings number and I'm generating way more pipeline than everybody else, that's going to make you promotable. That's going to make you well loved by the AE team. That's just going to shine a really nice light on you. This is something that I was taught early on by my first SDR manager. Is he just told me to steal everything. We were like an early adopter of Gong. This was like 6 years ago. And he was like, listen to these 3 reps calls of the top 3 performers in the entire company. Listen to their calls, hear how they talk about the product, hear how they overcome objections, hear the value that they bring, steal everything. use it, put your tone on it, your spin on it, whatever. But there's nothing in this world, there's nothing in the sales cycle that has not been thought of before. So don't try to reinvent the wheel, steal it, you'll become better faster because of it. And that is 100% absolutely true. That's also true when it comes to preparing yourself for that next level promotion, whether you want to be an SDR manager, whether you want to go into marketing, whether you want to go into ops, whether you want to go be an AE or CSM or whatever the case may be. Having a deeper, better understanding of the prospects, the platform, the pain you're solving for, all of that will suit you and prepare you so much better for that next step. And then finally, just be a human. Own your mistakes. Be proud of when you have a great success. Talk to these people as humans. Almost every single AE was an SDR before. If you come across like with an ego into things, if you come across as like you don't care about them or their success, like that's all going to show up. But if you come from a place of respect, if you come from a place of openness, a place of curiosity, that's going to show up in your conversations with them. That's going to show up in your conversations with your boss. That's going to just kind of show up in every little thing that you do. So really, above all, just be a human being with your coworkers. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
All right, there we go. That's better. Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Charlie. So we're at the top of the hour now. We will conclude this for now. We'll send out the slides and the webinar in general, the presentation, so that everyone can take a look and you can share with your team members. We're planning to hopefully do this a little bit more here in the future. So hopefully we'll see you all again. But until then, thanks for hopping on. Enjoy the rest of your day.